Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Chief Despain asked that everybody mute your phone until you're ready to ask a question, and that way the audio will be a little bit clearer. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? All right, Brad, we'll start again just by having you describe what you're doing and what the task force is up to today.
Okay, yeah, I'll kind of give you all a situational report on the task force since we last spoke yesterday, and then kind of lead into some of the situations that came to fruition either on the overnight and into this morning. So most of you, after we talked yesterday, were aware that Nebraska Task Force 1 was working in the Katy, Texas area. They were assisting initially with working around a nursing home, and if you saw the CNN footage of Nebraska Task Force and Ohio Task Force working in conjunction to think outside the box, they were actually utilizing our box trucks that we carry our equipment in. They unloaded all the equipment. We're using the heavy lift gates and then providing medical aid within the nursing home. Two folks giving them a check out, assisting them out to the truck, lifting them up, putting them all, lining them up in the box truck, and then driving them out of there to a medical facility. So they were able to evacuate 120 in basically bedridden or sheltered in place people that needed some medical attention there in conjunction with Ohio. Another part of the task force that was reconfigured as boat operations and water crews were assigned to various different details throughout their southwest district that they're working. I believe they last count I heard last night was they had 45 additional evacuees and rescuees to include a 37-week-old pregnant lady they pulled out, and then an individual that was in serious peril as the water was up to the roof line of his house, and he was about a half mile back from the road, and we took a couple boats in there to get him and bring him out where he could be transported then to safety. They moved after that detail down into fire station, I believe it was 75, Station 75 in Houston to assist those crews that did not have water assets, and then married up with the Houston Fire Department in that area to work. One of is kind of throughout their day, if you will, and they kind of returned back to their base of operations around 9:30 last night. So, as you can imagine, not knowing the terrain, not knowing the road system, and those that are washed out and flooded, driving around at night is very dangerous. And so getting them off the water, unless they are actively engaged in rescuing people, is utmost priority. So they get, so we have that built-in safety factor, if you will, as well as the downtime for the individuals that are working away. Since then, on the overnight, as most of you seen on the weather, rain continues to come down. The last thing when I left the operations center, they said 4 or 5 inches came down last night, with another up to 8 today. And speaking with the Corps of Engineers this morning, there's 2 reservoirs that feed right through the middle of the city of Houston, and they are at capacity. They are letting water out through the Buffalo Bayou, it's called, that leads all the way through downtown Houston and into Galveston Bay. Both of those are now at capacity. Water's being let out. The let out cannot keep up with the vertical lift of water that is draining, because they're like retention ponds for us, but the drainage basins, and they're starting to now come up and around the earthen dams and over the sides. So with that, a lot of chaos overnight as the rain came down. Teams were punched out into action, and some of them at 4 a.m. Nebraska is not one of those, but they are now currently staged on I-10, Interstate 10, in anticipation of an area that is about to get inundated with water. They're being pre-positioned, and as we speak, they may be going to work in that theater. I just have not talked to their division supervisor within the half hour to see if they're actually engaged, but I knew they were sent to that geographic area on somewhere in I-10 around Katy to work that area. They will continue to stay for this operational period in, and I'll say that with the caveat now, because everything seems to change on the hour, but more than likely in that Katy area. because there's a huge risk profile and huge probability that there's going to need a lot of evacuations and so on in that area to come. So they are still there with Ohio's task force. On total, there's 14 Type 1, which is 80-person task forces. I'll back up. There's 14 federal FEMA task forces, 7 of those being of Type 1 and the rest being Type 3, and 14 additional mission-ready packages that contain their boat crews, which are about 14-person crews, smaller, a little more easier to get around, that are inbound to a staging area in San Antonio to be then positioned wherever they may need, because there's a threat of another lake and reservoir north of the city that is reaching capacity. So everybody is operating in IA mode or initial attack mode. So for us around the fire service, that would be just like first coming up on a structure fire and having to handle the peril at hand. So there's no searching going on or anything of that nature. It is pure all hands on deck and rescue mode, trying to evacuate as many individuals you can. And our tasking orders come out of the Houston Emergency Operations Center in conjunction with the Houston Fire Department and the City of Houston. So they will get calls. We route them down through the respective operations ops section chief down through us, and then they get out to the task forces. So kind of a little global perspective of where they sit now and how they're operating. I did hear one nugget that, and I can't verify when. If I do, I'll try to let you know, that CNN is with them again today. Wanted to because I guess they really liked them from yesterday and saw a lot of great things about not only them but everybody else. So CNN may be around working with Nebraska again today. So if I do find out that that is indeed fact, there might be something from a video perspective that you'll have access to that as it comes on. So kind of a broad global view, if you will, and really kind of still a developing dynamic event, as you can imagine. Still in I'd say the first quarter of a marathon, definitely not a sprint. So just more to come, if you will.
Okay, we'll take some questions now, and if you could identify yourself before you ask the question, that'd be great.
Sarah Gilly with KETV here. If you have the numbers, just how many rescues do you think Nebraska and Ohio together have done?
Just with, I know combined, it was approaching 200 in some, just for them, just between the what they did at the old folks retirement community. And then once, because we have split our crews, part of Ohio was there, and actually it was our logistics folks that worked the ground support. They're supporting the task force, saw a need, they thought out of the box, very constructive, and they went into action and utilized their logistic things without their boats to solve a problem and solve a need. So between the Ohio being split into Nebraska being split with their water crews and their logistic crew, I know for a fact it was the 165, but I know Ohio was still working till about 10:30 last night in a place where water from the reservoir was coming down, so that number from them would have increased exponentially, and I'm still waiting on that number to come into me. So I would, if I had to make a guess, I would say between the two of them in the last operational period, approaching the 350 number.
Riley Johnson, Lincoln Journal-Star. Do you have any sense of the time frame based on the scale of the storm and just the amount of rescues you guys are needing to do, and just the fact that Houston is one of the biggest metropolitan areas in the country?
I think that's the million-dollar question, my friend. I don't think any thought has been given to the time frame because we still are activating or actually working in rescue mode. I think once there's a transition from rescue to a search mode or more of a recovery where we can go through and validate and verify any missing persons and people that have been rescued, there'll be more of a way to quantify or codify a timeline as it goes. But all talk and all actions are just geared to, blitzing it with every asset that we've got to be able to work in theater to perform and rescue. So that is probably off the horizon at least for the next couple of days before conversations start in that venue.
Sarah Feely with KETV here again. How are you guys keeping track of your crews? I know we'd heard they're tracked by a GPS. How does that work?
They are tracking GPS locators of every time they go. They actually are mapping and provide that data. It all flows up. We talked yesterday about some of the incident command structure and how that operates. And so they will feed that data up. Now, they have some trackers on some of their vehicles. I've got creative with some of our Nebraska folks by using Find Friends on my iPhone. So I can get some of their whereabouts and stuff just from an internal perspective to track, because I kind of feel like Big Brother in a way. So I'm looking out for them, but they report up through chain of command. Their division supervisor knows exactly where they're at any given time. And that division supervisor moves up his chain of command to his branch director. So we stay within our span of control to be able to cover and handle all those assets as they move around.
So kind of a follow-up, does everyone then, every task force, are they basically just running a map of the city, seeing where they've made rescues and where's left yet to check?
There's a giant map that's split the city into different divisions, like 4 quadrants. And that 4 quadrant section will then have mapping capabilities, and we overlay all the GPS data onto overlay maps so that we can drop waypoints and look at search markings on every single area, and that's the information our task force then provides us, that we in turn provide the authority having jurisdiction in Houston Fire as well as Washington.
That's right.
That's the guy trying to jumpstart the help out here. You can look for me.
You could have everybody mute their phone if you can, just so that we would cut down on some of the background.
Guy? Yes.
Okay, any other questions for Brad, Chief Thavnet?
I'm still here. Kind of heard a bunch of static or wind or...
I think we got a little bit of a bad connection there for a second. This is Chief Despain. Anybody else have questions for Chief Thavnet?
No.
Mara Klecker with the... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mara.
Okay, sorry. With the World Herald, just want to confirm, so both Nebraska and Ohio Task Force are already in the Katy area on Interstate 10 this morning?
Correct.
Okay. And rescues haven't started there yet, but you're just there in anticipation of more water coming to that area?
Right. What the issue is having to move task forces around is getting them give you just one quick second. I'm directing
Sure.
the guy to an issue.
While we're waiting, Chief, do you have anything you want to add to this thing?
Just that we did have a conference call with FEMA yesterday, and they are asking about additional resources. So we're just kind of reaching back through our agencies to figure out what we have available. So a little side story we can talk about later, but let's get Brad while we got him.
Okay.
So I moved them to we moved them to I-10 today because getting anything off a side street or that's on a freeway or something like that, now you become landlocked if it floods or your method of travel is bad.
Mm-hmm.
So we're staging on higher points and letting them decide what is their best path to travel. They're working with the Houston Police Department, State Houston Highway Patrol to get escorts and find their best way in there. So they'll stage high, look around to see the need, and find their best way so they have a means of entrance in there to work, and then egress to get out so they're not stranded back as water continues to rise while they're working.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Brad, have there been any injuries on our task force or any others?
None to my knowledge whatsoever. I talked to the logistics manager this morning, and he says the morale was outstanding. Everybody was good. They're doing great work. They were exhausted, as one can expect from working all day, but they're totally gratified that they're able to help and assist. And so the spirits are high. They're going to be happy today when they find out I've got but the logistics section from the management team has the food semi coming, so they've been eating MREs for the past since they've been deployed, in essence, and got in theaters, so I think they're getting tired of some MREs. And so I said, I'm going to have to go, and I have a communications vehicle that's down in the water. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll try to call back.
Okay. Looks like Brad is gone for now. Again, we're going to be doing these every day. But Chief Despain, did you have some information you wanted to add?
Well, I think we just want to add that the joint rescue of 350 plus people is pretty impressive for the team and the Ohio team, and so I think that's one of the reasons why we have this team together. And one of the benefits is that's some pretty impressive numbers, I think, and they still have many more days to go. So we're glad that there's no injuries. We did have a request from FEMA to explore our capabilities of sending additional resources. So we're kind of meeting to explore what we think we can do without adverse impact to the local area. And so we're reaching out to the area chiefs to see what capabilities are. In case they do need that, they're not asking for it right now. They're just kind of wanting us to kind of get prepared for that. So we're ramped up, and said we kind of keep every few hours we get new information that we kind of adjust to, and so this is one of the best ways to get the information out. But we'll do it sooner than later if something significant arises.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief?
Just to follow up to that, Riley from the Journal-Star, you said reaching out to the area chiefs. Is that like Southeast Nebraska fire chiefs and the volunteers to see if they could join Task Force 1 or see if they could help you guys fill as your LFR personnel?
Yeah, at this point, it's just people that are attached to the task force that are still in town. We roster way more than got sent. There's some of them still here that are available for backup or rotating, and so it's just reaching back to the chiefs that are supporting the task force, that the people that are available to go, can they still go? And because we still have to cover shifts and assignments here day to day, and so that's why we have to be careful about how many we rotate out at once. If there is a request for additional resources to those chiefs and agencies that are not part of the task force, that would come a different route, and we would help facilitate that, but that would come a different route, and we saw that during Katrina. That request came out through FEMA, but at this point we haven't heard that request yet.
And Chief, once again, if I could ask you too, doing this doesn't put the local fire department at risk as far as reduced personnel or anything like that?
No, our staffing is the same as it is pretty much any day. The issue is people are just working back-to-back shifts, or they might get one day off and then one day on, work that schedule for many weeks, and so over time that would create a problem. For any 1 week or two, I think we're prepared for that, but if that goes an extended route, then that's just the issue of you have people working, literally, 100+ hours a week. That gets a little old after a while. So you start seeing injuries and illness, and those kind of things will start kind of creeping in. So that's what we look for long term. But short term, it's no impact. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you for being part of that. Thank you, Diane, for coordinating that.